I'm very glad to be with you. It's also a kind of privilege for me to be today, but not always as president of IPS. I know Nadine has underlined that I'm coming from the Jurassic Park of journalism because 50 years, half centuries is a lot. No? But I think that this doesn't mean that I cannot understand the problem of today. And I deeply believe in the power of our profession to shape more and just inclusive world. Yes, the problem is that the sport is a mirror of the society. And if we only show the surface, we fail our mission. If we only show the one angle, we fail our mission. Inclusion is not a slogan, and you know this very well, no? It is a responsibility. It means telling the story of sport discipline and athletes that are overlooked, communities that are underrepresented, and voices that are not often listened. Yes, sometimes there are somebody that is saying that this story don't sell because there are some groups are not attracted by them. But this is wrong. I think that sometimes even the so-called intelligent people are telling that the other are not understanding. No, the problem is that when we write something, especially when we speak about inclusion, we have to think with the mind of the possible readers, not to think with our mind that we know everything and so for us is normal. We have to put always ourselves on the other side. What it means, exactly as when you have to cook pasta, no? The raw pasta has not a special flavor or has not a special taste. So the pasta can be not interesting for anybody. But when pasta becomes interesting for the sausage that you put on or for how you cook it, or you serve with. So exactly an article is exactly the same. Because the same story written in a different way can attract the attention, especially the one regarding inclusion, because it's more difficult. So we have to study more because we are telling stories that are important because they are true. There is a dignity inside and they inspire. But if sometimes people are not reading this, it's only because it is our responsibility that we were not able to give them the same interest. I know that in the newspaper sometimes it's very difficult to find the proper space, even in television, everywhere, even in the radio. But because sometimes we fail to tell exactly what is interesting for everybody, because even inclusion is something that we have to use to understand, that the people needs time to understand the full meaning. Because it's not so simple. The life of every day for everybody, with all the concern that people has, the worries that people has, especially now with the tension that is around the world. So it's up to us to keep the attention of the people. Because sport coverage is always open to the diversity and not as a decoration, but as foundation. When we do this, we inform, but we also help to shape a future where every voice counts, because sport is full of beautiful angles. And this is something that we have to think about. For this reason, I spoke that it ups to us to create also the interest. It ups to us to study more. Yes, in the last 20 years with IPS, we made a lot of activity. And I think because thanks to sport, that is a fantastic tool to improve our society, even in the difficult times now, because we are living in this moment so difficult situation. And I think that sport is helping us to have more hope in the future, especially for the young generation. In all this year, we have built bridges with the new generation of IPS Young Reporters program, as Nadine has underlined, yes. But this, the most important thing is that we were able also in the period of the pandemic, during the COVID, no? We create the e-college and a lot of people has followed us. And now perhaps this kind of e-college are necessary also today, especially to reach the world, because it's not so easy to travel now. But we are in a kind of other COVID, more dangerous for everybody now. And so we have to be connected, especially to underline the fact that inclusion is important. Because around us, somebody is creating a kind of desert of feeling, and in this case, we have to react. We have to show that we are still full of feeling because our life is done of feeling. As Nadine told, we are also proud of our awards, Sport Media Awards. Can you imagine that in all these 7 years of life, more than 10,000 journalists has participated to this, giving us submission of video, article, everything, photo. This is the key for the future. We have to improve this because it's the only way in which giving importance to our work, that after even the inclusion will be more important. Because sometimes we are not able to give importance to our daily work because we are looking only to the rest. We try to speak about other problems. I think that we have to go back with our feet on the ground. And because in this moment we have to defend the press freedom and the human rights, we have to promote the diversity and also fighting against corruption, doping and match fixing, because these are the great cancer of the world of sport, but not only, because this is part of the society. And for this reason, even if we are sport journalists or we are involved in sport, we are facing the same problem of the society. Because doping, drugs, and everything, and match fixing and corruption is part of the society, unfortunately. Even the civic one, no? Yes, last year we have made a kind of birthday of our first centennial of life of our association. We went at the UNESCO headquarters during the Olympics in Paris. It was a special moment. But we have not to stop there because the new century is already full of violence, even intellectual violence. That is the most dangerous. And now we are proud to be this moment as organization, by the organization supported by the European Union to build a more inclusive model of sport reporting. The SIM project reminds us that our work must go behind the obvious. We must report on sport in all forms, across generation, abilities, culture, identity. In these troubled times, studying remains the compass that can guide us through the fog. And there is a lot of fog around us. We might not have all the answers to all the problems, but we have to continue to be curious enough to try to understand, to study, to ask also the right question to the people, and not to be afraid to make this question. And after we have to study every day. I think that we must protect the future of our profession by ensuring that everyone has an equal voice and the opportunity to be represented. If we fail in this responsibility, corruption will continue to manipulate public perception of offering not the full reality, but a fragmented and distorted view. Journalists, remember, as one guy on the stage of our award told, is a journalist that make big investigation. He said, journalism, even sport journalism, is not a crime. And we have to safeguard and defend the truth. And we have to promote inclusion and preserve integrity. Don't forget this, it's very important. I think that it's important that you are all with us today, and I want to thank you also the speaker, but also my colleague of my executive or our association, president of different associations around the world that are with us. What it means is, it's very important because they want to participate. They want to give new signal to the world. But as I told you, the most important thing is that you must begin to think with the mind of the other when you write something. You have to think what are the real core of the discussion. You have never to think that you are the best, because we are at the service of the public. We are not the actor that must win as yesterday sinner the Wimbledon. No. We are only people that has to serve the truth. And we have to defend the inclusion because inclusion is part of our society. It is part of the modern life. And for this reason, thank you to everybody. And if anybody in the future needs other discussion on this theme to me, it's very easy to reach me. You can call Martin or Nadine or Stefania, and I'm ready to speak with anybody. Thank you very much.
Now we move to a presentation by Mr. Fernando Soria Hernandez, serving as a Secretary General of the Instituto España Se Mueve, which is a Spanish nonprofit association that promotes physical activity, health, inclusion through sports at national and international levels. Why España Se Mueve? Because in this SIMS project, or Sports Inclusion Media Seal, España Se Mueve was one of the project leaders, or is the project leader among other 4 partners. They drive efforts to introduce an inclusive sports system across Europe and focuses on awareness and communication strategies to make sports accessible to everyone. Mr. Fernando is specialized in communication for inclusive and responsible sport, aiming to engage media outlets as key agents in promoting inclusion through sports. Mr. Fernando, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Maureen. Thank you very much, Danny and Lua, for believing in the project since the very beginning. That's the first we were thinking about the
Fernando, the audio is very low.
Okay, we'll change.
Your audio is very distorted.
Better now?
Much better. Yeah.
Much better. Yes. Thank you. So I was saying thank you to Gianni and Jura for believing in the project since the very beginning, since the very first meeting. I do remember Mark and me were talking about how to convince AIPS to participate, and I have to confess that it was quite easy. So since the first moment they saw it very clear, they were really convinced, and thank you very much. Thank you very much also for the rest of the team, for Junadine, to Martin as well, to Stefania. For your work and dedication. Without you, it would have been impossible, right? And also to AIPS' contribution during the project and for the next stages as well, because now we're finishing the project, but after July, we will go live with the seal. So this is a very quite challenging and very nice stage as well. So I am here now representing España Se Mueve as Secretary General, but we are a team of 3 people managing the project. Marc de Klerk, he's head of international projects of España Se Mueve, and Elena Moya, she's project coordinator, and the 3 of us are managing the project from España Se Mueve. So thank you to them as well for their contribution and dedication. So if it's okay for you, I'm going to talk about the SIMS project, to explain a little bit about its context, structure, goals, stakeholders as well, targets. So I'm going to share my screen. So please tell me if it works or not. So sharing.
Yes, it works.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so the SIMS project, Sport Inclusive Media Seal. So it's a project that we submitted to the European Commission, to the Erasmus Plus program. So at the very beginning, it was supposed to work at a European level, but after working after a few months, so we agreed that it was nice to expand to worldwide, especially when we had the first webinar with you from AIPS. So there were a lot of people interested in participating in the project. So we saw that why not? There was a great opportunity to expand the framework and to work at global level. So basically, the project is within a holistic and general strategy from España se mueve to promote sport, health, inclusion, especially through sport. And we basically try to work with different stakeholders at different levels, so regional, national, international, and also with different stakeholders from public and private sector as well, with media outlets, also companies, education, well, schools, for example, universities. So we try to work with all the stakeholders, so this way together, so we can implement and deliver different projects and initiatives like this one. In this case, we are focused on the promotion of inclusion through sport, but specifically through communication, because there were a lot of initiatives and projects within the Erasmus Plus program, especially exchanges of people, about sharing knowledge, etc. But there were very few projects related to communication, to dissemination. And at the very end, as you know, as communicators, as journalists, so if we are talking about an sport event or even a project, if it's not disseminated, the impact is going to be very low. And when we do something, we want it to be have a great impact, to reach as many people as possible. So in relation to the goal of the project is quite simple. So basically, we want media outlets and communicators to become inclusive sport promoters. So at the initial stage, communicators and media outlets are just mere communicators. They disseminate, they communicate, but we want them to evolve, to run a path to evolve from mere communicators to promoters. Promoters means a higher commitment in terms of, for example, in the way they communicate about inclusive sport, also about the creation of different projects, initiatives, from this perspective as well. This is something that we have been working during the project, and this is something that we have tried to share in the different training models that we have built through the project. So, key concepts. So we have 3 key concepts in our project. The first one is inclusive sport. So when we talk about inclusive sport, we are not referring also to sport for people with disabilities. We are working a wider concept. So we do believe, aligned with the definition of the European Commission, that inclusive sport is about connecting all the different groups of people through sport. It's about integration. It's about connection, regardless the religion, the economical status, beliefs, sex, race, etc. Right? So on the second hand, we are working the inclusive sport journalism. So this is like a new concept, a new approach, and it's based on a new way of approaching the way inclusive sport is implemented. So basically, we have two different options, right? 2 different fields that we are working on. The one hand, focusing on the promotion of the communication of inclusive sport events. So giving more coverage to, for example, Paralympic Games or every kind of sport related to people with disability or inclusive sport. But on the other hand, there is another innovation. It's about the possibility of covering non-inclusive sport activities, initiatives, events, but from an inclusive perspective. And this is something really innovative. That's something that really like the European Commission, and one of the main reasons they selected the project to go live. So basically, I always give the same example. For example, imagine a Real Madrid-Barcelona match. So traditionally, when we talk about the media, they are more focused on the match itself and the preparation to the match, then after the match. But what if we work from a different approach? What if we focus on the social aspects of the match? For example, the grandparents going with the grandchildren to see the match, the social impact of the match in different people, groups, collectives, etc. This is something that we are trying to teach. We're trying to share our knowledge, our experience to, especially all the journalists, about having some ideas, some concepts in order to be able to implement this inclusive sport journalism. And this is something that we have been working through the training models. And the third one is evolution. I already mentioned it. So we want you to evolve, to become promoters instead of just mere communicators. The next aspect of the project is about the actors. So we are trying to connect, to work a different target, different groups. One of them is, of course, journalists, because you are the one delivering dissemination, communication, journalism as well. We are also talking about the media outlets, general medias and sport medias as well, because you are. We do believe that you are in a very special position, and therefore you have a very big responsibility. No? Gianni was also talking about it, about the responsibility, about the fact of being committed with the other aspects of the sport, in this case, inclusion. So a part of just communicating, so there is the chance to become something more, something else, just promoting inclusive sport. Then inclusive sport promoters as well. For example, in this case, we have sport clubs, sport federations, associations, foundation, any kind of entity focused on the promotion of inclusive sport. And of course, brands and institutions, because in most of the occasions, they are the ones, or they should be the ones, supporting these events, these initiatives in order to go live, to work. Brands to support mainly through finance, through economic contributions to project, to the media itself, and to sport events. So, and additionally, institutions, public institutions. So we talk about municipalities. We talk about, for example, in the case of Spain, the High Council of Sport as well, European Commission as well. So any kind of institution from the municipal, regional, national, international level as well. At the same time, we are trying to connect the different stakeholders, because some of them are sharing the same goals in terms, for example, of getting money for dissemination for the media outlets, and also to deliver these sport events. Inclusive sport promoters and media outlets should be able to work together to reach these brands and institutions to get more support from them. So next point about the seal. So in terms of targets applicants, so are you the communicators and the media outlets, general and sport? The scope is international. So at the very beginning, it was supposed to be a European level, but we decided to go global. Frequency. So with this seal, we are covering 12 months. So we have decided, instead of following a natural year, we will do from, I think it was, please correct me if I am wrong, Nadine or Martin or Yura, we will do from October, from 1 year to October of the next one. We have been discussing about that, and it was the best option in terms of management. So elements. So we have built a strong certification process where we design, different qualitative and quantitative requirements as well. We also created different training modules. These training modules, they are not very deep in terms of content. They are just designed to work like a guideline with different aspects, different ideas for you to implement. And then we want it to be very affordable. We don't want to be, so we want to be easy to access to anyone, from small communicators to big media outlets as well. What else? So in relation to the SIMS, we have designed 3 different levels, from bronze to gold and silver in the middle. So basically, this is connected to this pathway. So when you are bronze, you are still a communicator, yes, committed with the promotion of inclusive sport, but you are not yet a promoter. So to go from bronze to silver and to gold, so you will have to meet different requirements in terms of qualitative and quantitative indicators as well. So you will have to increase your level of commitment. Milestones. So the project started in 2022. Then we will be finishing, as Nadine said, the 31st of July. And the idea is going live in the 3rd quarter of this year. So probably October, November, we're working on it. So there is still a lot of work to be done, especially after summer. So we work on it, and we will let you know. As soon as we define the moment for the go live, you will know. We will disseminate through our network, your network as well, IPS, the different partners. So you will know. Well, and if you want to be part of the SIMS at this stage, you can contact, for example, me. This is my personal email address. And in the future, we will set up a proper social media accounts, email, and a specific website for the project. Well, not for the project anymore, in this case, for the SIL. So it will be ready for the go live. So nothing else from my side. Thank you very much. And
Thank you, Fernando.
Have a nice day.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank colleagues who have been with us at the pilot project and have obtained their seal. We have lead Martina Nicci from Sportscat TV, Croatia. We have Andrew McSteen, some of them are here with us today, from Andrew McSteen from the International Handball Federation. We have Marko Milanovic from Osečka TV, Croatia. We have Natalia Donets here with us today from Sports Time, Moldova. Raul Picasso, a freelancer from Spain. We have Anna Brimčić from European Handball Federation, Croatia. We have Bart Lagai, the Standard, Belgium. And we have other people who have been also part of the SIMS project and were awarded the seal by our partners. Now I would like to introduce to you no other than the AIPS Sport Media Awards director and AIPS mentor, Martin Mazur, joining us from Argentina, an award-winning sports journalist with over 25 years of experience reporting for some of the biggest media outlets in the world. He has work published in more than 25 countries, translated into more than 20 different languages. He joined the AIPS family in 2015, and he's a mentor of the AIPS Young Reporters program, as you know, and AIPS e-College. He is now the director of the AIPS Sports Media Awards since its creation in 2018. And he will be the moderator of our panel today on inclusivity in sports, or sports inclusion. Martin?
Thank you, Nadine. Thank you, everyone that joined today. I would like to share very quick slides. Just to have an idea what we've done in this project, especially in the last months, with the workshop that we did, I think, in November, and some of the findings that we showed to the participants. So basically, the idea here is to explain that in the past 10 years, especially, with the eruption of social media, the platforms and the sports actors have multiplied themselves. We have now in the same ecosystem journalists with their own social media accounts. We have traditional media also with social media accounts. We have social media accounts from specific events, sporting events. We have the organizations as well in social media. We have the athletes. We have the agencies that represent those athletes, and the sponsors and the brands that are part of the sports world. Then we have the influencers, now rephrased as content creators, that were not originally journalists. Now there is a little bit of a shift there, but in principle, they were not journalists when it started. We have the new media, the niche media as well, and we have the big broadcasters, and all of them are in the same jungle, trying to find content and to publish content. So the problem here is that we as journalists are desperately trying to find different content all the time. We are proud to say we are looking for something different, but in the end, and this is part of the problem, we might be fishing, all of us, in the same pond, and this is a little bit of the target groups that we've identified in the SIMS project. So basically, on the left, we have, I would say, 90% of the coverage nowadays. It's about mainstream events and mainstream sports on the field and off the field, because they are mainstream events, like, for example, the World Cup of clubs in the US. Local and regional, but also national and international, because they are mainstream events and mainstream sports on professional level, of course, and basically it's all about men's. On the right, you have non-mainstream events and niche sports on the field and off the field, local, regional, as well as national and international. And imagine we have also amateur level, grassroots level, older adults, intergenerational. We have the women's, and then we have two more layers, different physical and different mental abilities. And finally, cultural and social differences, migration, conflict zones, human rights, religion, gender, sexual orientation. All this, unfortunately, is left behind in normal coverage, and we are all focusing on the left. And this is a very interesting graphic to show that if we manage to go and move from the left to the right, we will find a lot of stories waiting to be told. And this is also part of our mission, in order to create different content that is valuable and that is also engaging. And we will discuss this with the panelists that we have here today. So Nadine, can you introduce first? I have to say that some of the panelists here are very important to us, because they participated in the past in the AIPS Sport Media Awards. Some of them are winners, some of them received the special mentions, and some of them are also contributors in these topics that we consider very important for us, regardless of the final result. So Nadine?
So first, I would love to introduce Lorena Garcia, producer for the Olympic Channel and Olympics.com from Spain, a Madrid-based sports producer at the Olympic Channel for 9 years, closely covering the Tokyo 2020 and Paris 2024 Olympic Games, including the Paralympics and numerous other international events. She's passionate about sports media as a force for inclusion and positive change. Second, from the United Kingdom, we have Stuart Pollitt, a winner in the AIPS Sports Media Awards 2019 edition. He's the co-director of Restless Films, a UK production company which produces short film documentaries and event coverage for disability sports. He has produced many award-winning works for the Special Olympics, one including, relative to the AIPS Awards, the Kennedy Who Changed the World. His work has been broadcasted on ITV, BBC, and the Olympic Broadcasting Service. Welcome. We have third, Arafat Zubair from Bangladesh, a senior reporter of Dhaka Post, a senior sports reporter, a prominent sports journalist in Bangladesh. He has received multiple awards for sports reporting, locally and internationally. His reports have also ranked twice in top place on AIPS Asia ranking. And this year, he has achieved a special mention on promoting diversity and inclusion category in the AIPS Sports Media Awards. We have next Cosmas Mulinga, TV presenter at Diamond TV from Zambia, an award-winning Zambian sports journalist and TV presenter. His unique storytelling has earned him Zambia's Best Broadcast Sports Journalist Award in 2024 and AIPS Second Best Young Reporters Broadcasting worldwide for this year's edition. He's considered the youngest anchor in 2024 Women's African Cup of Nations and during the 2023 AFCON broadcast for Diamond TV. We have next Natalia Donitz. He's Donitz, a deputy editor-in-chief for sportstime.org from Moldova. She's a SIMS Seal certified media. She's the only one in this, let's say, panel discussion. She's a Moldovan sports writer and photographer. She's very active in sports media and in administration since 2008. And she's an alumna of the first AIPS Young Reporters program at the FISU Summer Universiade in Shenzhen 2011. She's a graduate of science in Pau, Paris in communications and the first and only Moldovan to have worked in the Paralympic Games. Welcome.
Okay, I think we have all of them, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I will start with Lorena and thank you for being with us, Lorena, today. Lorena, you work for the Olympic Channel and last year you sent a very compelling story ahead of the Paralympic Games to the AIPS Sport Media Awards. Can you tell us a little bit more about this story?
Yeah, thank you, Martin. Thank you, Nadine. First of all, thank you for having me today. It's my pleasure to be surrounded by so many names and journalists. So first of all, thank you very much. And yes, as you just mentioned, Martin, I submitted like a short video piece that we filmed during the Paralympics. I think probably later we can like watch a short teaser, or I will also send the link in the chat for all of you if you want to take a look. And it's a story that I really like. I really enjoyed filming it in Paris. As you said, I was in the Paralympics, and this story follows Nick Mayhew. He's a Paralympic athlete from the US who won 3 Olympic gold medals in Tokyo. So he was, the story with Nick is that he was diagnosed with a cerebral palsy as a teenager when he was 14 years old. And people often do not realize that he lives with a disability. So that's why we called the piece, the video, like the invisible disabilities, because he has literally a dead spot in his brain that affects the left side of his body. But he doesn't look that he has a disability, and that's why he wanted to show it in Paris. And he had a very special like hair design with colors, putting his brain scan in his hair to show that he has this spot, and to try to show the disability. And that's what we wanted to show in the piece, that not all the disabilities are visible. You can see them, but this doesn't make them less real. And to me, I would say it's also a story about like Nick McHugh owning his own narrative, because he wears this condition with pride, with this hair design. And yeah, that's we wanted to highlight, not only the performances. Unfortunately, he didn't win any medal in Paris, but that's what we want to show, like also the human side of the athlete's journey.
Lorena, how did you find out? And then I asked Nadine also to prepare the video, but how did you find out about this special haircut? And then how did you decide to make the film?
Actually, it's a fun story because he was not in my radar when I went to the Paralympics. I think I guess that most of you who have covered like big events like the Olympics and the Paralympics, it's a huge event. It's impossible to have everyone on the radar. So it's funny because I was just with my colleague, with the camera operator who filmed the story in the Team USA house, just doing other interviews. And seriously, I just saw him and I was like, okay, what is this hair about? It blew my attention because it was like a pink and blue. And you know, when I was there, I was just curious about it. I asked the press manager. She introduced me to Nick, and yeah, he was like super open and super helpful. I also want to thank him from here, because you know I always have like I normally do video pieces, so I have like the visual. I always think visually, so I just check the hair. I check his social media, and I think, okay, that could be a good story. But of course, without Nick's help, could not have worked. So they gave us like full access to the training. We did a half an hour interview. Of course, we always have to cut a lot, and the video piece it's finally 4 minutes, but that was it. I simply like saw it.
Nadine, do you have the video? We can show the short version of the video. Yes.
Having a disability that's invisible, you know, I'm not an amputee, you know, the normal eye, or to somebody that may not know, I don't look disabled. And, you know, that's a big part of the Paralympics, so I wanted to represent that community and get a conversation going. So we decided to put my MRI and my brain scan on my head. You can actually see on the top of my head, it looks like a brain, but then if you look closer, you can see the dead spot on the right side that affects the left side of my body. You know, just I wanted to get people talking about it and to understand, you know, that there are invisible disabilities and people like me do exist and do compete in the Paralympics, and just because I, you know, look normal, you know, I still have a disability. And so, you know, I wanted to represent that community and give them a voice, you know, out there on the track, because I'm very proud of what I can do on the track, but more importantly, what I can do off it.
Thank you. So, Lorena, what challenges did you find to depict him properly, if any?
I would have to say, but it is not only for Nick, for this story on Nick McHugh, but one of the biggest challenges that I found covering the Paralympics was to find the right tone, in the sense of we didn't want to portray any of the athletes as a superhero or as a victim on the other side, you know, like treating them as athletes because this is what they are. But it was sometimes a bit complicated to not fall into cliches. So that's, to me, was the most challenging thing, not only in this piece on Nick McHugh, but in the rest of the Paralympics coverage. And that's why we wanted to let Nick to define the narrative. As I said, he was super open. He dealt super good like with media and with video. And also to me, it was very important to think visually, as I just said, and use the visuals to support what he was saying. Like rather than us making an interpretation of his words, just let him speak and let him explain, and also like support it, as I said, with visuals. That's why I also want to take the opportunity to thank, I already mentioned him, my colleague Raúl Cadenas, who was the camera operator, and the video editor Nekane Fernandez, because I think they did an amazing job in actually putting this his words in images. And yeah, that was to me one of the biggest challenges, to find the right tone and to not fall in these cliches of superheroes or the Paralympic athletes.
Yes, and I agree that some athletes are trying to give a statement already, and he was clearly one of them. But without your observation, this statement would have been completely overlooked by the world. And there are some other cases in which you have to be very, very careful because they are not willing, or at least they are not thinking of giving a statement or making a statement. So I'm sure that the approach is completely different from in both cases. But what was the reaction after the video?
They really like it. I mean, I didn't see him after because he was competing, but I was like in touch with him and with the Team USA press managers, and they really like it. And one important thing is that, for example, we published. I remember that we published the piece before his competition. We thought he was going to make it to the podium, but it was not. It was not the moment that no. If he doesn't win, that's why we like to promote it and to do it before he competes, because I think that also empowers the athlete, because we don't want to tell only the stories of the winners, but also the human stories of the athletes. And yeah, they really like it. So they were very happy with the story. Also, we did it like super fast. We filmed it one day, we sent it back to Madrid, we edited it in just 1 day. I think it was 1 day and a half. So it was very nice, and they really like it, and they really appreciate that we follow his story.
And regarding, because he says I look normal. Of course, these are his words, and it's okay. But from our side, we shouldn't say like he looks normal, because all of us look normal. But do you think also, even if it was a nice story, that he was suffering inside and he needed to make this statement because many people will have been pointing at him, asking him, but how are you in the Paralympics? Have you perceived this kind of suffering inside?
I would not say so. No, I don't think. I think he was more, I mean, no, it was not sadness. It was probably, I think in his case, he was glad that we were following the story, because as I said, the Paralympics is a super huge event and there are stories everywhere. I mean, every athlete, no, in the Paralympics and in any other event, have a story behind. But yeah, I completely agree with you, and that's why I was saying, like, we don't want to put his words, we want to let him speak. And I thought the same when he said, like, I look normal, because as you mentioned, like, all of us look normal, but I think it's also important to let them speak. But I would not say that I appreciate any kind of sadness or this in that sense. He was also like very happy to get the filming, the training. No, I would not. I didn't have that feeling. We should have maybe asked him directly, but my feeling was not this.
Thank you, Lorena, and then we will have the open discussion later. But now I will jump to Stuart Pollitt. Stuart. Yes, Stuart is connected. We thank Stuart because he was filming and he took 1 hour off to be with us today. And Stuart, you won with the AIPS for Media Awards in Budapest with the Kennedy That Changed the World, telling the story of Eunice Kennedy Shriver, the founder of Special Olympics. How this triggered in your case the interest to find more stories related to the Special Olympics?
Yeah, hello, Martin. Thanks very much for having me. Some amazing people on the panel today, so really privileged to be a part of that. Yeah, so the story that ended up winning, the long form documentary, actually came out of some shorter form work that we'd done whilst I was working at the BBC at the time, where we covered Special Olympics, World Games events, and that sort of thing, where we'd done that. So it came from that, and I felt that there was a bigger story to be told about the history of the event and how it started. And obviously there were some benefits in terms of getting that story commissioned and the BBC agreeing to fund that story, because obviously the story it was telling about intellectual disability, but also there were important other elements that helped them commission that, namely, obviously, the history of the Kennedy family, very, very sort of, famous celebrity family. So that is going to also generate interest potentially among viewers. So it had a good mix of the core story about the intellectual disability and the difference that sport can make to those people who are competing, but also had other elements. So it enabled us to create a longer form project. Some of these, it's hard to judge sometimes whether a story is 3 minutes or it could be 10 minutes, or some are feature length into a feature documentary. So we try to judge each one on its merits, but this one to me clearly had something where there was lots of different strands that you could get into.
And then from there, you continued to film some of the athlete stories from Special Olympics. And I remember last year, I think you submitted one about Iceland. That was a very, very beautiful short film. I will ask Nadine also to prepare it to show some bits of it. But how do you trace and how do you select these kind of stories?
Well, with those, we'll be governed. There's only one thing that governs the story, and that is how strong is the athlete story. So particularly with stories around Special Olympics athletes, we want to hear from the competitor themselves. We don't want other people telling their story. So we want them to be able to put it in their own words primarily, but also we want, mainly it'll be what they want to say that will govern it. Do they have a powerful story to tell? Do they have a powerful message to give? What within their story is interesting? What are the elements where there might have been challenges to overcome, or struggles, or perceptions to change amongst people? So we always look for how strong and how keen is the individual athlete to tell their story. Around that, you then need to think of the visuals. As the previous panelist said, you can't make a video piece without good visuals. So secondary concerns for us would be the locations, but clearly it's good if you can go to a visual location, an interesting visual location, particularly one that looks quite different, with the Iceland story being a good example. But to give you some idea of the range that we've done in the last year, working on a series of short films about Special Olympians that we've been filming over the last year, which will be out later this year. We've been to Paraguay, Namibia, Iceland again, Malaysia, and Canada. So a really different range, and that's different people, different ages, doing different sports. So primarily we want to tell the athlete story, and that's always most important, the human interest story. But then we think visuals, what can we do to make that extra difference as a piece of visual media?
AIPS has done at least 3 times Young Reporters projects programs during the Special Olympics, and we encourage all of you present here to find out more about this amazing event that it happens not only internationally but also locally in each country, because it's a fantastic source of good stories. Nadine, can you show the video, please?
It's so important in life to be part of something.
Kind of just wanted to play basketball with people like me, autistic, Down syndrome.
It's so important in life to be part of something.
Kind of just wanted to play basketball with people like me, autistic, Down syndrome, all that.
I don't know, maybe it's just like the Icelandic mentality, just like, let's do it. Children with disability are a bit isolated. I guess the word got around that my son was born with Down syndrome. There was no basketball team in the country. We threw an advertisement on the media about we were going to start this program in 2018. For the first practice, we had 3 or 4 kids with disabilities that showed up, and it's just gradually grown over the years.
There are too many examples from the past that children with special needs, they just don't have a chance. Hilmir has been in this team since 2018. and it has been amazing to see him and the other children grow.
Some of the kids, they did not know how to catch a ball. They did not know how to dribble a ball. They did not know how to walk backwards.
When I was running, I was kind of just jogging. And now I can jump around, do layups, all that. It's a lot of fun.
The first competition we did was actually in January 2020. We had 150 people clapping, and they just kind of fueled up from that. And ever since then, they just competition they're on.
I could not see it from the beginning that he could be here today playing basketball with all this energy and all this passion. Everyone has a chance just to be themselves.
You know, when we started the program, just to change one kid's life from that perspective, we have achieved our goal to get the kids into the society, get them out of the isolation.
It's not unusual for us. We just go all the time.
Okay, this is just a taste. Thank you, Stuart, for this kind of content. But I would like to ask you, because Stuart, you also had to deal with some very, very delicate topics in the past. I remember also there was the video of Rob Barrow, who was suffering from ALS. And how did you deal personally with that video and with that story that involves a lot of suffering, not only from the athlete, but from the family and from the friends?
Martin, I think that is the problem with internet, because it's not in.
Stuart is not.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see if.
Hello, Martin. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I lost connection with you briefly there.
Yeah, no, I was asking you, how do you deal with some very delicate issues and topics? I remember the story of Rob Barrow, that he was suffering from ALS, and you had to interview him and made a very, very compelling, touching video. But I'm sure it's not easy for you, and you need to have the right approach. And how do you deal with these kind of cases?
That's obviously the most important thing always is you must have care for the person that you're interviewing and you're dealing with, because at the end of the day, we're responsible, all of us on this panel, for putting these stories out there, but these stories are affecting real people and they're about real people's lives. So it's taking the time. For example, with Rob's story, as you say, he was suffering from ALS, motor neurone disease, we call it here in the UK, and we spent a lot of time before we filmed with Rob and his family, making sure that they were very keen to show in detail the physical difficulties of that disease, and they didn't want to shy away from that. But we had to sort of say to them, look, are you sure you want to do that? Because it's obviously quite intrusive into their life and their home that we were asking them to do. And we gave them a camera to film, them lifting Rob up the stairs and washing him and things. So it's about making sure that the contributor knows what they're agreeing to, and that also that you're going to do it for the right reasons and your commitment is to them. So primarily, whatever we think when we're making a piece of work or doing a piece of journalism, we must always remember what is the impact of this going to be upon the person who's given up their time. So yeah, Rob's was a great example that him and his wife were so keen to detail the disease in all its difficult ways, that we obviously wanted to do that because it's so powerful, but we also felt a commitment that we had to get that right and be fair to them and make them. So I think I would always say, build the relationship with the contributor, be honest to them about what it might look like, what they might see in the end of the day, what you want to achieve. And once you've built that relationship, it's much easier then to produce a piece of work that has power, but also is well received by the contributor, but also well received by the audience.
One final question. I know you have to leave, so thank you again. One of your latest inclusion projects is about diving. Can you tell us more about it?
Yeah, so we worked on this was two men from the northwest of the UK, around Manchester, Lancashire way, and they wanted to become the world's first ever disabled diving duo. So there was one man, Salim, who is blind, and his friend Sean, who's paralysed. He uses a wheelchair, and the two of them wanted to dive together, and initially they went around lots and lots of different dive schools and were told, no, it's not possible, we don't want to do it. They found an instructor who would take them on, and who would help them train and would put the requirements in place that they could do this as safely as possible. So we charted their story, but again with that, yes, it was about their mission to do that, and that gave us a visual thing to go at, the diving, but actually what we're telling is their story and their resilience, and the fact that the two of them wanted to change attitudes. They were both very big on what they wanted to do was not just show the diving, they wanted to show how they could change people's attitudes and perceptions about what someone with disabilities can achieve. And that to us became the theme of it. So all the visuals we built around the diving, but actually what we were telling was a story of individual achievement and determination to change perceptions. And when you get two really good characters like that, for you as the filmmaker, you know, a lot of your work is done in some ways. They were so good, it enabled us then to just build that story out. So we're really, really fortunate to tell that. But whatever we do in all the different projects, and again, thanks for having me on today, is to treat everybody in as human as way possible. It's a human being story. Everyone's got a really interesting story, and it's our job to sort of bring that out of the contributors and develop it.
Thank you, Stuart. Later we will have questions. So if you're not here, we will forward you the questions if you agree. From the
thank you, Martin. If anyone
audience.
wishes
Okay.
to, I have to leave now. But if anyone does wish to contact or email, please pass on my email. I'd be more than happy to answer questions from anybody. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you, Stuart.
Thank you.
Now we move to Asia. We have Arafat Zubair from Bangladesh. Arafat, hello.
Yes.
So Arafat, you received a special mention this year in Rabat for promoting inclusion and diversity in sports. And please tell us more about this story of the indigenous athletes in Bangladesh.
Thank you very much, Martin and AIPS, for inviting me to this occasion. It was a very exceptional story in Bangladesh contest. In generally in Bangladesh, not so much this kind of story has been covered in before, but all of a sudden one thing came in mind that in Bangladesh cricket is very popular, but in cricket team there is no small ethnicity representative. Bangladesh cricket has been developed more than 30 and 40 years almost, but there is no one player from the small ethnicity. That point came to in mind. Then I tried to research more and then many perspective, many point of view. Then I wrote a report on small ethnicity. It was a big report. It was a big series report. The first report was on the fully on cricket. The cricket is Bangladesh very popular. The cricket board has a huge money. Every child is want to be cricketer, but in the hilly region and the small ethnicity, but the cricket has not reached on that pace on that people arena. And that report has been very much recognized in Bangladesh because in cricket board didn't focus it very much before it. And later my report was not only this report, not only the cricket, other sports like women's football and gymnastics, other sports are fully based on the small ethnicity. But how they are barrier. But if you read my report and I am telling it in front of all of these listeners that they are living in so much struggles. They're living in hilly areas and sometimes they can't eat every day and their income is very much low. And some of the income of in the dollar, just $1, $2 per day. Within these limitations, they come to the sports and they are giving huge mileage for the Bangladesh and its use. And if you, I also wrote it in my report that the first female referee in FIFA Bangladesh, in the female referee, Joy Chakma, is from the hilly areas and small ethnicity. And in 1985, in Asia Cup held in Bangladesh, and one player is called Mr. Jomon Lusai. He is in World 11. He is also from small ethnicity. I just represent this information that from the small ethnicity, people are giving use mileage in Bangladesh sports and giving honor to the internationally, but they have used sorrowness, use the limitations because their language is different from the mainstream people from Bangladesh, and their food and their everything, education, but all of the limitations, they're coming day by day and they're enrich our sports. And another thing is I also emphasize on that after retirement, all kind of sports, the ex-players involved with the federation officials, sometimes they are coach, sometimes they are referees, sometimes they are judges. But small ethnicity people, after the playing his completing his career, they return to the homeland, and they are too much detached and for the sports. I also represent also the some important data that Bangladesh has some active 40 federations, and if 20 federations per member, almost 800 people. Among the 800 people, only the 5 and 6 people are from the small ethnicity, which is very much phenomenal. And sometimes I also suggest that from the every federation should take a small ethnicity people, or at least one federation, one man. That will be good presentation. And one of the main important things that the government has not no policy regarding them, because they have good prospect and they have very good chance to promote Bangladesh sports in largely, but government has no investment, no infrastructure, no policy, no monetary, all kind of things. I represent it, and in Bangladesh, it has been very much recognized. And AIPS, I especially thanks to AIPS judges, they gave me a special mention. In Bangladesh, it's also good recognition. The Dhaka Reporters Unity, the largest reporters unity, the largest organization for reporters, and the Bangladesh Sports Players Association, the Sports Authority Bangladesh Journalists Association, they also recognize the report. And also one of the biggest achievement is I think that the law advisor of Bangladesh was the chief guest of the Dhaka Reporters Unity on this occasion, and he also astonished about these topics. He also suggested the sports advisors and others, the government authorities, to is very important issues, not only for sports, the overall development and inclusion and diversity, not only sports, and overall then Bangladesh culture and Bangladesh social and economic perspective. Thank you, Martin.
So basically, and I will ask Nadine also to show, even if it's in Bengali, but to show the PDF of the very special report, because it was a very long form article. But basically, Arafat, you found a story that everyone was somehow involved in this, but no one was speaking about.
Yes. Many one is not that about it, but after my report, everyone is recognized and they are talking about and they are thinking about it. And sometimes the ministry and National Sports Council has been taken a little bit initiative that this kind of people should be recognized. Now, I also mentioned in that in Bangladesh has a sports award, National Sports Award. But in sports award, I also recognize in this report only few person has got this recognized from the small ethnicity. I think I also suggest that some peoples and some quotas must be dedicated for them for their use dedication, use limitation, and it should be recognized in future. I think so.
And one question: how did the athletes receive this story? If they immediately messaged you, thanking you, or what happened with these people that needed visibility?
Yeah, the participants and of my reports of the athletes and ex-players, they are so much happy because someone may told me that they are involved in sports arena more than 30 or 40 years, but they didn't see any in this kind of report in past, and they are feel very much happy that, and they're thinking that their limitations, their rights, and their everything are covered, which was very important. It could have been before more than 10 to 20 years ago. However, it has been finally done by me. They are very much thanks, and many, not only the sports players and athletes and coach and officials, also the journalists also thank me, because it was very much uncovered issue in Bangladesh. And now it has been, now many, after my report, many journalists and many sportsmen and many government officials also thinking about it very closely and important.
Thank you, Arafat, and stay with us. I will now move back to Europe with Natalia Donets from Moldova. Hi, Natalia.
Hello, thanks for having me.
And absolutely, it's a pleasure. And please tell us more, for the ones that are not familiar with the Moldovan media landscape. What is Sport Time?
So I guess probably the first thing that I should say about our website is that it's a sports news website catering to national minorities, because many people may not know that Moldova is actually a multi-ethnic country. So we have quite a significant Ukrainian minority, quite a significant minority of Russian speakers. Then we have Bulgarians and the Gagos, people who all use Russian as their primary language of intercultural communications. So our website covers both national and international sports. I guess one of the most important content strategy points would be actually covering the news about athletes coming from these national minorities, because it's a common problem in Moldovan sports journalism that some journalists would not be able to speak Russian and to communicate with athletes coming from different ethnic origins and vice versa. So we're trying to give everyone equal treatment and to cover the news fully, so that all the readers can actually feel engaged and involved in the stories.
And you signed up for the SIMS project. You were in the workshop. You sent all the stories. Then you get the degree. What have you learned in this process?
I think one of the most important things that I have learned as deputy editor-in-chief is that the content strategy of a website is much more comprehensive than I initially expected. The project helped me to, I guess, enrich our news coverage in the sense that down here, inclusive journalism is usually treated as inclusive, as including people with disabilities in your news reporting. And it's, it's much more than that. It's essentially, it's covering the news about the volunteers, all the people involved in the background, people that somehow might not have a voice or might not normally be chosen as subjects, but that are playing an essential role in sports. So, and I guess one of the most useful elements of the projects was the vocabulary of inclusive sports that was given to participants, which was very interesting to read, and especially taking into account that, inclusiveness and, the rights of LGBT and other representatives of the community are normally studied as profoundly, in some parts of the world. So it was very interesting to get, a global cultural perspective on inclusivity.
Absolutely, we have produced this glossary, but at the same time, we are also encouraging, as Gianni Merlo said, encouraging to study, because when we have to report, we need to have the proper wording, and the wording, we are doing this in English, but some of us, English is not our mother tongue, so we need to also understand the proper wording in our own language in order not to be, even if we are trying to do something well-intendedly, to allow this coverage to backfire on us. by the misuse of a word or a term or something that doesn't really look good on paper, especially the ones that are writing and are using words in writing. And this is one of the cases that we've also seen in the workshop with many referring the case of Iman Khalif as a transgender athlete. So it's not transgender, by no means transgender. So if we fail to inform properly, then we won't be able to make to hit the right tone. At the same time, informing properly means preparing ourselves for different contexts, from financial fair play to chromosomes and doping cases. So of course this involves learning quite a lot. But at the same time, Natalia, I remember there was this interview that you made with the para judo coach, and he said something very meaningful, that the athletes that he trains, they don't want to be pitied. They have very strong spirits. Some of them stronger than anyone of us here, and they don't want to be pitied. So also this is a kind of knowledge to us to make the right approach to these athletes, because if we approach them as someone that needs to be pitied, then we are making a big mistake.
Absolutely. I should say that I have been privileged to get to know the Moldovan National Paralympic team, not just as heroes of my reports, but as actual friends. And I've been to the Paris Paralympic Games as part of the national team. I've lived in the village. I've shared my lunch with them. I went to their training sessions. To be honest, the most important thing I would say about athletes that have some sort of disabilities is that they're much more open, much more alive than a lot of people that I've met in my life. And they are not defined by something that they cannot do. They're defined by vivid personal character traits, hobbies, personal stories that are not limited to, some sort of illness. For instance, I was doing an interview just last week with one of the women that volunteered at the Paralympic committee. She was telling me about one of our para judokas who's deeply passionate about every time she would go to a competition, the next day when she has her day off, she would go to a museum to explore things, to touch things. And she would always say, I saw this and I saw that, and I've had so many experiences. And I know she's blind. She's blind, but she reads books. That's absolutely amazing. And all of them are all of them are in way better physical shape than all of us are. So like we can't absolutely focus on pitying people that are much more engaged in life than a lot of us.
I can see you are very touched by this topic, and I would like to ask you, you're also part of the AIPS family. How important is to you that AIPS is trying to give some framework to all over the world for the people to make the right to open up a little bit more?
It's absolutely extremely important, I would say, especially as someone who went through the Young Reporters program. I mean, AIPS played key role in shaping me as a journalist and opening up to, different perspectives and different looks at reports and all that kind of stuff. And I would say AIPS is setting an example to other national associations about the topics that are important. The website and the magazine is a platform to different voices from all over the world. And I mean, it's extremely important to showcase that to journalists that are members who are teaching others in their national association that these topics matter. So yeah, it's extremely important to see AIPS as one of the leaders in helping build this concept of comprehensive inclusivity.
Thank you, Natalia. Stay with us, please. And now we move to Africa. We have Cosmas. Hello, Cosmas.
Hi, Martin.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. I hope you're well.
Yes, I'm very glad to have you here because it's nice also to put a face to a name, and you became a name the moment you submitted a very special video that I will ask Nadine also to prepare so we can see it from Zambia. And from there, the video advanced and was embraced by the executive committee first, and then also the jury, and then it ended up being one of the videos that reached the final stage in the awards. But tell us more, please, about this story before we get to see it.
All right, thank you, first of all, for the opportunity, Martin, to be among the panelists that have been, invited to speak in this webinar, but also just to be around, various journalists from across the globe. It's a huge pleasure. Talking about the story itself, this story that I did of a group of grandmothers or old women over the age of 40 that play football in a community and for the purpose of health, but also building unity, is one story that has quite sparked a lot of, enthusiasm and older women in the country. And this is because I did a story about 2 to 3 years ago. And in the story that I entered for the AIPS Awards, I mentioned that it's been over a year since I last met the grannies. And the first time that I met them, it was so amazing to see that it was just 6 women that came together and decided to start playing football in a backyard. Literally, they didn't have a football pitch, and they would just ask somebody to cut the grass and they would play there. And they used to do this just for the sake of keeping their health good, but also just building a community. And as time went by, they continued to grow in numbers. And when that started happening, you realize that they started getting better. They had testimonies to tell, they had stories to tell of how they started feeling better. People who had high blood pressure, never suffered from such. And it was interesting. It caught my eye. And the moment that I did a story over a year later, I found that they were now over 20 teams in 22 communities, which was so mind-blowing to see that, these women that were just 6 have made an impact in not only their community, but now in the country at large. And it really brought so much joy to many women that started getting better. But also I just felt that it was a moment to highlight inclusion and diversity, because it's not always that we see a 67-year-old woman kick the football. And it was something that caught my eye, and I felt it was a story that really deserved to be told, not only in the country but the world at large. And so that's what the story really is about.
Thank you. And I will ask Nadine if you have the video, Nadine, we can show it. Yes.
In a world where football is dominated by the youth, a remarkable group of women is rewriting the rules. The Yasa Grannies, based in Zambia's capital city, Lusaka, they're not here for the glory or fame, they're here for something much more profound. It's been nearly a year since we last met the Yasa Grannies. From the community to the pitch, they are living proof that the game does not stop, it just keeps getting better. Led by a vision of health, community, and unity, these grandmothers have turned their love for football into a national movement. And it all started with a simple dream:
dream yanga nyakuti ngati a healthy nation ya magrannies tinamba tenze about 6 women but inapezeka tirani soka ya paka so that like muno mulusaka che tina ma teams about 22 teams in all the compounds.
It's more than just football for Lillian and the Yasa Grannies. It's about building a future where health and fitness are a priority for everyone. Now, the last time I visited the team, I spoke to one of the oldest players who's Loveness Nerenda, and all she wanted to do is just to score a goal. Let's find out if she did. Well, Loveness, muli bwanji?
Ndichabe bwino ine.
Chawama, last time mwadefoya ukuingisha fe bola, ukuingisha kofe mugo. Apa nomba ndefo ukuisha, wakusha mwade ingisha, edo mwamfuiresha ni after mwaingisha.
Awe seti navira chabe bwino. Kuti awe magogozi yadziwa uchaya bola. Naye seti tifuna kuchaya bwino kuti naye seti ngaendeko ku World Cup. Kuti na seti pikingise Zambia ende pasogoro.
It's dreams like this that keep the Yasa Grannies going, but their coach says it's not always easy.
I would say it's a bit tough because when we look at these women, it's not like every one of those or every one of them have played football before. So to them, it's a challenge to tell them on how to control and how to pass the ball.
The community has been watching their journey closely, and the support is growing.
Basta motivate wana wangono kuti vasazipezeka kuenda kuchitavo chitachita. So
okay, this was the very compelling story of the Grannies. And what was the reaction after you've seen your name progressing in the AIPS for Media Awards with this video?
Well, the reaction was surreal because I firstly understood how big of an opportunity it was for it just to be considered even on the long list, and it also really brought so much light to the Grannies themselves, and also not only them but also a lot of people within the country. I will tell you that the moment that this story made it to the AIPS Awards, people started supporting these Grannies because they heard about how much their story had the impact. And in the same month that the story made it to the final list, the government came in to support this team to travel to South Africa to compete in an international tournament. They gave them jerseys, and they actually walked away with a midfielder award. And these are things that sort of give you satisfaction after telling a story that this team that you saw start off without a football pitch now has jerseys, and government is coming in to support this particular team. And this comes at a time when the Zambia has been growing when it comes to women's football, and it has been making a huge trajectory. They made it to the Women's Africa Cup of Nations, but also for the first time last year they made it to the World Cup. And this time they had of a story of older women, and so it compelled even a big institution such as the government to come in to support. And now they are recognized, and every single year they're going to be supported to compete in such events. So it was a very surreal moment, not only for me who did the story, but for the Grannies themselves, but also the country at large.
And now you understand your big role in this recognition as well, because without this video, without this recognition from the awards, maybe the government wouldn't have found out about them.
Yes, I want.
But
sorry, Martin. As I told at the beginning, now looking to this video, I think that this video are exactly putting on the light on what I was telling. That you can have a news, but after is how you cook it, that the public after can understand. Because even the story of the grannies, if you speak only, say, okay, there are some grannies that are playing football, people will not accept immediately. But how you have cooked the news, now it becomes interesting. And so is the real inclusion, because as I told you, never forget to think with the mind of the people that receive the message, not only with the art. Congratulations, eh? You did a very good job.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
But Cosmas, I'm sure that many of you, as it happened, I'm from Argentina, so we tend to feel away from the real action. No, it's like you want to be in the Champions League final or in the women's Euro, and then you have a fantastic story waiting in your backyard that many people could have seen that story, but they didn't think it was interesting enough. So what was your learning after this, and what are the stories, what other stories are you now trying to pursue from there?
Well, one thing that I learned after this story started progressing in the AIPS Awards is that it's not always that we have to strive to run after stories that we know maybe are talking about professional athletes that will catch the readers or the viewers. Even the people that are just in our backyard, the stories of grassroots football, grassroots netball, stories that we think might not catch the attention of many viewers, but the little community that will be able to be touched is going to spread that influence and inspiration around. And so that's one thing I really learned. And coming to other stories that I would like to do, especially my country, Zambia, I've realized that, most of the times, another community that is not really, or hasn't grown as much. I talked about the women's football now progressing very well in Zambia. Is para athlete, Paralympics, I would say, and there are some para athletes that are young and are in this sport, but they don't have the funding they need to even compete on national events or even international events. They don't have the equipment that they need, but they are willing to, to participate in sports. Some are willing to even use that as a source of, income to support their families back home. And this is, athletes that are differently abled. And so these are some of the stories that I would like to bring to light and just ensure that, such, also athletes get not only support, but will also tell the strength that they have just for them to come out of their shell and say they want to pursue this sport, because that's also not easy. We always talk about the support that these athletes need. We always talk about the sympathy side where we seem as if they don't have as much courage. But I would also like to shine the light on the courage that these athletes have just for them to, despite how they are, just to say they can, pursue sports and do something out of it and at least impact other people. So those are some of the stories that I would like to pursue further.
Thank you, Cosmas. I open now to all the panel members, and we will receive questions from the participants as well. So if you have any questions, please raise your hand or write it in the chat. In the meantime, I will ask a general question, and then all of you, Lorena, Rafat, you can jump in the answer. But first of all, what are the barriers? Because the webinar was called Breaking Barriers. No, so what are the barriers that we have to break in order to have a more inclusive type of sports media coverage? What are the barriers that need to be brought down? Anyone? Lorena? Natalia? You can speak.
I guess one of the most important barriers that I could mention is the fact that, well, it comes both ways, really. It's the fact that sports journalists need to build relationships with national sports federations and vice versa. Because, for instance, I would give you an example of a great story that has been missed by literally all international media. So we have this athlete who earned a bronze medal at the Paris Games, his third medal. First, he became a champion in Beijing, then he became a silver medalist, and then finally a bronze at the age of 49. He nearly had a heart attack while doing it. Not a single representative of foreign media even approached any members of the Moldovan team to talk about this. Nobody. And one of the reasons why I would say is that he's literally quite known just to the judoka circles. The IJF knows him, the European Judo Federation wrote about him on their website. But that's it, really. It's about relationship building, outside of the, particular journalistic group that's focused on one exclusive sports. It's just as we as a journalist need to have connections on all sports and interests in not focus on, say, football or athletics exclusively. The same goes for national sports federations. Relationship building is one of the keys to helping stories get to the media.
Yes, thank you. And also I have to say that gaining access, which is one of the main problems in mainstream sports, is not as difficult in smaller sports than it is in big sports. And this is also part of that. Sometimes we forget that we can have access to the athletes, to the coaches, to the officials, as it was a long time ago with everyone. And now we tend to believe that, yes, there is no longer access to them. Well, that is not true. I don't know, Lorena, if you have any other barrier that you would like to share. Yes.
Ahora, sorry, I was mute before. Yeah,
No,
I want to,
no problem.
before just seeing like what are the barriers that I think we have to break. I really like Natalia what she just mentioned, because I think it's really important to speak into to other journalists, and to especially local journalists when we are like covering other events, because I think they often know where the stories are, and I think it's very important. You also mentioned it, Martin, to stay connected, not only with the athletes. We know that sometimes when athletes are competing, it's completely understandable, it's complicated to reach out to them directly because they need to be focused. But I think it's very important also like to keep our connections with the local journalists, with journalists from the federation and peer managers and all this stuff. I think it was a good point, Natalia. And I also think another of the barriers that I think we need to break to achieve like a more inclusive stories in sport, it's like we normally tend to think that there are only certain stories that sell, in the sense of that the audiences, that the people only care about like gold medals, no, or mainstream sports. But I think it's much more about it, that we shouldn't treat any different other stories. I think I said it before, every athlete has a story behind, and I think we have to move forward, not only focusing in gold medal stories or in podium stories that of course everyone will cover, because I mean it's normal, but I think that we need to move beyond that.
Lorena, I agree with you that sometimes the journalists, when, as Gianni said, when they really care, so they build a relationship before the event, and they can tell the story when they are relaxed, when you have access. And it's not the same that if you arrive the day before the competition to make them tell the story, that they are focused on competing, because they want to be treated as competitors, not as storytellers. So it's the night before the competition, and some people are there. Is like, okay, now you need to tell me again about your, let's say, your brain scan, and he's ready to compete. So there is a proper timing that mostly is before the competition, and this is why it's important to focus on telling these stories when the time is more appropriate, and not only once every 4 years. I would like also to ask Arafat, because what Lorena said about statistics and algorithms, and how many visits a story has and how many likes. So Arafat, from your perspective, how important it is to stay away, at least when you publish the story, from the perception that it will not be selling enough because the story, the topic is not relevant.
Yes, thank you, Martin. And it's very important and sensitive issues for now. The whole media, I will say not only the sports, is overall the media industry is now on the viewership, is now on the readership. If it is a very good news, a very worthy news, but if it's not the readable or it's not on the viewership, it will be questionable. But in my perspective, the journalism, there are some parts and some issues on there. The sum of news will be for the properly readers to the viewership and to the readable, and some of the for the media has some accountability to the nation and society to discover some things and some issues, and someone should be educated through the media. And on this perspective, I will say the sports and sports media has a very good space to educate the sports policy and the sports atmosphere. And on that point of view, I will say that in my report and some of report, there is some policy making reports and some of the reports are
I think your audio is.
it will depend on the media house policy. I think that about that we are also talking about.
Cannot hear.
I think your audio is not working properly now, Arafat. While you fix it, I will ask one more question to Cosmas, and then open up also to the rest. And I see also we have one question to Michal. But Cosmas, do you feel an extra commitment now of giving visibility to people that are seen as invisible now after the granny's video?
Well, most definitely. And that's because of not only the impact that, has been seen, but just also the thought of what more could be done, or what more could happen if more of such stories, were done. So I feel definitely that commitment, but also that drive to tell more of such stories, because I also wanted to highlight, not to run away from the question about selling out, as you highlighted in the previous question. And my colleagues, you also talked about that. It's also important when it comes to the editorial team to understand that such stories of inclusivity also deserve to at times even lead. If it's when it comes to newspaper, be on the front page. If it comes to broadcast, even be the lead story of a bulletin, because it's for us to create that agenda to the community and the viewers at large, and as well as the readers, to understand that such stories are also very important. So I definitely do here, do feel that commitment to even do more of such stories. Yes.
Yes, and I put also the example of one famous quote of Steve Jobs, that is that the idea is not to give the people what they want, but to give the people what they still don't know that they want and they need. And then he was quoting also Henry Ford, that Ford said, well, if I gave the people what they wanted, I would have given them a faster horse instead of a car. So at the time, they didn't know they want cars. But this is also what we need to make before publishing the story. It's never about the topic, it's about the storytelling of the story, what Gianni explained very well with how we cook this story. If we don't cook it well, then someone will be able to say, well, it's because of the topic. No, it's not the topic. Actually, if it was the topic, then the main problem in sports media, especially in newspapers, would be that there is too much men's football, because the media sales are going down and down, and 90% of the coverage is men's football. So it's about the topic, or it's about... So again, this is a very interesting discussion, like the egg and the chicken. I have some questions. Michal Dusik from Czechia. Can you unmute? I think we lost him. Okay, there is someone in the chat. Sergio.
Yes, you have to unmute me because I cannot unmute myself.
Ah, okay. Okay, okay, very
I'm already
good.
unmuted.
There you are,
Perfect.
Michal.
Hello, everyone. I just want to say that what you've told us, it's proven by last year, because in a Czech Republic last year, we organized as a Czech Sport Journalist Association 2 months before the Paralympics, day with the Paralympics. It was together with Paralympic Committee. We had a day together with the top Czech para athletes. We had a sport day together. So it was a possibility to really meet person by person, to find some friends. And for the last 2 months before Paralympics, the number of articles about handy sport in our newspaper was like 300% more than before. And the same example was during the Paralympics, because we, as a Czech TV, we prepared a project. We had more than 100 hours of live transmission. And there have been, by our CEO, there was a little bit mixed attitude. Some said, well, we will do it just because it's a Paralympics. But I said, no, we will do it because it's a sport. And at the beginning, we didn't have good numbers, but the numbers were growing very rapidly, and I received many emails. Oh, I started just to watch. I wanted to see how it looks. Now I am watching regularly because it's a sport. And this is exactly what Lorena said, what you said. We have to offer stories, we have to offer reasons, and the people will decide if they want to see it or not, if they want to read it or not. But we are responsible for offering them something they maybe don't know if they want it now, but we have to offer them in a proper package, the proper package. And it works, it really works.
Thank you. Thank you for this, Michal. You say Michal, right? Or Michal?
Michal. But it's okay. Michael is
Thank
also
you.
okay.
No, but thank you. Thank you, because it's encouraging to know that these discussions are happening in every newsroom in the world, and there's always going to be someone saying, yeah, I'm not sure about this topic, but it's never about the topic. It's about the story and the storytelling you use to especially now with the multi-platform. It's not the same to do it without a proper commitment, that do it because you feel there is a good story to tell, and you can immediately tell the difference between the people that are committed to giving something special, or the ones that are just doing it because they were told to.
Yeah, and as I said, we have now very good cooperation with Czech Paralympic Committee, and we this year we will again organize the day for Czech sport journalists, just to keep the touch and to be in touch and to keep the relations. And this is the way how we can find the stories, because we will meet the people there, we will talk with them, we will hear their stories, and this is the way how to approach it.
Thank you, Michal. And now I have Mansi Pathak from India. It's very nice to see her after she was part of the Young Reporters program that we did last month in Bucharest. Mansi.
Hi, everybody. I'm a freelance journalist from India. And like Martin mentioned, I was recently part of a Young Reporters program. My question is for Lorena. You mentioned that maintaining the right tone is very important when covering Paralympic sports. So how do you sort of balance the sensitivity at the same time, ensure that all the details of the story are coming out?
Hi, Manasi. Thank you very much for your question. So as I said, to me, what is important is to leave the athletes tell their own story. Of course, when you are doing the interview, you try to guide them to listen to the best parts of their story. But as for example, Martin, that I think it was a good point that he mentioned, he talks about, Mick Hughes talks about I look normal. And this would not be appropriate if we say it, because I don't think he or anyone looks or doesn't look normal. So I think that's also important, like to try to tell them that the athletes tell their own story and just leave them with their own words. I think that's also important. But as you mentioned, like the sensitiveness when we are doing the interview, sometimes también sometimes it's also like complicated to deal with, but I would say just to be as natural as we are, honestly. Thank you.
Thank you, Mansi and Lorena. And to Cosmas, Sergio asked in the chat, do you think it will be challenging to provide consistent coverage of sports that are deemed to be lower interest to the public? Cosmas?
I think responding to the question, I don't think it would be much of a challenge covering such sports that are deemed to be, or less relevant to the community or the public, and that's because most of the stories that we don't realize are there actually require even less budgets than the big stories that we follow. And I think that's one thing that will actually make it not challenging, but help us be consistent. Because let me give an example of the story that I did. I literally just had to go to the community that's near our office and just used a single camera and my camera person. It didn't require a huge budget for us to carry this out. If at all, we didn't even spend a coin on this story. We just went there and talked to the grannies, and this story was able to come out and make an impact. And so I think it's still possible for us to stay consistent in doing such stories. But as we continue to do that, we will continue setting the agenda for even the viewers and the readers of our stories to get acquainted to understanding that such stories are also very, very relevant.
Thank you, Cosmas. And after 2 hours, I would like to thank all of you for being here today. The video will be also available on our YouTube channel. I encourage you, if you want to find out more about what we did in the past, there's also the workshop in the YouTube channel to see some of the cases that we've identified as the potential target groups that we might have been missing when we are in the vertigo of the coverage. But then if we reflect, oh, there is also this and that we can follow, which is also important because we are looking for content, and sometimes it looks very difficult to find content until we open up a little bit more and start seeing all these fantastic stories waiting to be told. So thank you to all the panel members, to all the participants. I would like to give now the word back to AIPS President Gianni Merlo to make the final goodbye, and thank you.
I have to make the closing ceremony.
Yes, Gianni.
First of all, I think that it was very interesting to follow all the different experience and also that come from all around the world. This is very important because the key of our work in the future will be, as I told at the beginning, to create bridges between the different young generation, because the tension of today is trying to cut the possibility to stay together. And I think that all the guys that were here with us today, they are very keen in creating the possibility to work together and to improve, especially because the work of a journalist is changing so fast. So we have to be in contact to understand each other, what is going on, and especially how we can create a situation in which we can express ourselves in the best way. I think that we, the Jurassic Park, we can learn a lot, and sometimes also you young generation can learn something from us, because the experience is always useful, especially if we believe in what we do. Because in journalism, don't forget that the principles are still the same if you use a computer or if you use a pen. Because the problem for us is the truth we have to report the truth, and after we have to also to give sometimes opinion about what is happening. The opinion are the most difficult, but don't be afraid. But to give a good opinion, you have to study. So, guys, let's see next time. I think that this kind of experience are very important, and we will continue to work together. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to this great, I think, experience that with SIMS and with all this association we are doing, because I think that are making us more rich. We are more rich than before, and I think that this is the real result, positive result of all this experience. Thank you very much to everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank
Gracias.
you.
Ciao.
Thank you so much.
Bye
Thanks a lot.
bye. Thank you so much for the great opportunity.
Thank you very much.